goes crazy here. All right, do you see my PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
very good. Outstanding. What we've got for the conference here is actually an extension of a study that I did regarding my dissertation, which was dealing with the Illinois State Police and their beliefs in training regarding deadly force by police. Deadly force in general, but deadly force specifically, is one of the things that we are looking across the United States to see how police are reacting to certain situations and what the public's perception of police are. One of the biggest issues we have is social media is definitively against policing. And when you get down into the actual numbers, less than 1% of the police officers out there are really an issue. The trouble is, when you do something that is horrifically wrong, really poor judgment or criminal in nature, we see it over and over again. So my concern was if training would be, advanced training would be helpful in ascertaining if deadly force would be more properly used. What Dr. Chris Bitner and Dr. Niyazi Ekici did with me was go through my paper, and we checked on basically if what I had proposed and done in 2016 with my study was still applicable today, or if there were any changes. The biggest question when we're talking about use of force by police, by the public, is it proportional and necessary? Now, I spent 33 years driving a squad car, and I never once, I was fortunate, I was one of the fortunate ones, I never had to use deadly force, and I never had deadly force used on me. Now, I had people try to stab me. I had people try to hit me with objects. I had to wrestle a lot of people, but I never had to shoot at anybody, and I never had anybody shoot at me. So knock on wood here, I was very fortunate. The police officers, the retired Illinois state troopers that I talked to for this research, 90% of them had come close to using deadly force, and none of them actually used it. So, and we found through our study that this is about the same throughout the United States. Very few of us ever had to use deadly force, but because it is something that is so horrific, people look at it and want to know how, with police work being more daunting in the 21st century and police work more complex, how do we get better in being police officers and use our skills and abilities to their utmost? So essentially, what we have is many of my participants believe that deadly force training needs to be enhanced. And one of the things, when we did the original methodology, we looked at the elements of deadly force training, and we also came up with the idea of how much is critical thinking involved in the use of deadly force. And what we found originally was reality-based training is necessary and needed. And reality-based training is where you actually, like paintball guns, something where it's not going to hurt something, but somebody jumps out and actually threatens you and you react. Do you take them down? Do you talk them down? Do you try to de-escalate some other way? Or do you use deadly force? And critical thinking training is a must. One of the biggest things that I found, not only with my research, but with me personally, the ability to use your critical analytical thinking abilities to use all your skills, all your training, all your knowledge, your ethics, your morality, everything that is actually you, and to use your critical analytical thinking elements to form and formulate and then carry out and implement the best discretionary decision possible is a skill that needs to be developed. Nobody's born with this. It has to be developed. And so one of the biggest things too is that's hampering our discretion with our critical analytical thinking is policy limits. If your policy is so vague, it gives you no guidance at all, or if it's so specific that it takes away your ability to react, there's a problem. You want a middle of the road where you use your skills, your ability, your training to make the best decision possible. And part of that reality-based training is our training needs to be improved. Now, so what I wanted to do with this conference and our training is to ascertain what the current findings are with the research out there. And so we looked up the current research, and we basically found what I was very happy to and relieved to find out, that is we were right on, we were spot on. It's difficult to express in words what a police officer goes through when they're confronted with a deadly force situation. However, the results of the 4 themes that I had talked about shows that by continued training, by advanced training, by working harder to develop those 4 themes, we can be better police officers. De-escalation is one of the main things that they want police officers to do across the country. The trouble is if you lack confidence, you lack training, you lack skill, you're not going to be able to de-escalate, you're going to react. So the better you train, and Dr. David had talked about martial arts training. We want this training to be as advanced as martial arts training, so that it not only becomes mental memory, it becomes muscle memory. You learn how to react to situations instead of panicking. And this is one of the things that we were excited about is that current research supports my original research. And I'm not a superlative researcher by any means, but we were very pleased to note that current research and current studies show that we were pretty much spot on. So basically, further research into the study or into this type of study is just basically, how do we apply the research to actual training? How do we get people better trained so that they can react better and be better police officers? Because quite frankly, the reason we don't get into policing for money, we go into literally, and you get tired of hearing this, but we go in to help and make a difference. And so if you can make a difference without taking a life, that's important. Thank you much for putting up with me. And are there any questions or comments?